Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Expand Love show. Today, we have an amazing guest called Roni. I am very happy to have you on our channel. He is the organizer of UK Food Festival. He has an amazing book on raw vegan lifestyle 101, as well as he has an amazing podcast called Love Food Podcast. He has had many amazing people come and talk on his podcast so that raw vegan fruitarians can have so much more knowledge and awareness and experience of everyone who is on this journey. Welcome to the show, Ronnie.
Thank,
Could you introduce yourself a little bit?
thank you very much. Yeah, very glad to be here and very kind for you to offer to interview me. That's very nice. My name's I live in Scotland, in Glasgow in Scotland, in the UK. I was I would say that I was always kind of fairly health conscious from a younger age and tried to make healthier decisions and never drank alcohol really, never smoked cigarettes, stayed away from drugs. So I was always fairly conscious like that. Was always looking for things that would make me feel better and make life easier, I suppose. And gradually experimented more with diet, and eventually that led me to a raw vegan diet, which I started around 2011. And I started to go to events, and those were to me so fantastic. And I loved the community, and I found sort of a tribe of people that I really connected with. And that led to me putting on my own events, and then it led to the festival, which took place first time in 2014. And we are continuing to this day, the UK Fruit Fest. So, and I continue to go to other events as well. So that's a little bit about me.
You started. Okay, my dog is started. Sorry, this is
There's a dog. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Quite
so you
excited
started.
by.
Yeah, yeah. Come
Sorry,
again.
I said the dog's quite excited by my introduction.
I think so, yeah. So you started your raw vegan journey because you were curious about health, and then you said that you also got into the raw vegan community.
Mm.
Well, what do you eat on a daily basis now? Maybe we could start with that. What is your diet like after nine
Yeah, well,
plus years of?
yeah. So
Yeah.
I ascribe, I pretty much described to what's called the 8-10-10 diet, uh, book written by Dr. Doug Graham. But it's basically a raw vegan diet based on fruit, but it keeps a low fat approach as well. So mostly what I've eaten in the last few years, I live in the UK, so I eat the fruits that are available here. So that would be a large percentage of my diet would be bananas, grapes, uh, apples to some degree, pineapples, mangoes, various berries. Not so much dates. At one time, I did eat a lot of dates, and then very simple salads of like iceberg lettuce. I go through periods of eating a lot of tomatoes. I'm not so much doing that right now. So tomatoes, maybe an avocado. Um, so I keep things quite simple, right? But I would say on a daily basis a lot of grapes, fresh orange juice as well is one big one for me. So fresh orange juice, grapes, uh, bananas when they're ripe. Sometimes I'm not so organized, and those are kind of staples for me. Apples a little bit. So I those are kind of staple foods for me. Salads are quite simple. Kind of keep it all low fat, not too many nuts and seeds, and that's about it. Like I don't know. Would you like a specific day, exact amounts and things? Would that be better or
I mean that's good enough. So mostly you're eating
right?
fruits in your day. That's the,
Yeah,
of course,
and
it's
like
18, 10, 10 like following.
yeah, and I would probably say 2,500 calories, maybe more. Like I'm not
Yeah.
super high calories, like I'm not as active as I could be, but I'm also not trying to undereat. I don't fast. I don't take supplements. I should mention that. So no
Mm.
supplements, no fasting, no intermittent fasting. I eat. I I'm a little bit disorganized when I eat. Like, so I'll sometimes eat in the morning, sometimes eat late at night, eat throughout the day. I don't have set meal times. I maybe should do that. So I'm still learning and getting better. And I would say, Kartika, like probably my favorite period of doing this kind of diet, my favorite period of time was when I actually did a mango mono diet. And I don't necessarily recommend that to people that are starting off doing this, but that's where you eat just one food for a period of time. And I did that in Thailand for nearly 4 months, and I really, really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. And I do feel to some degree drawn towards a pure fruitarian diet, like a very simple, mostly fruit diet or sweet fruit diet. But I don't exactly do that right now, but I am kind of I am drawn towards it, and I do believe that fruit is enough for us pretty much. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think, but I may be wrong about that, but I'm just saying I feel like fruit is uh is the food that supports us best. And I don't really buy into the idea that these other foods we need to eat all these other things to supplement it. But I could be wrong about that. But I I'm a big believer in fruit, and I think it's the primary food for us and the best food, and it's way above all others.
Yeah.
One other thing, I tend to avoid dried fruit now. I tend to, and I've had probably one of the few issues I had with this diet came down to dried fruit and eating a lot of dates for at one period of time. Ate a lot of dates, and I think I had some teeth problems, and I think it was a lot of it was to do with the dates. So I've pretty much cut out dates completely as a result.
Yeah,
And
that's a good way to go. Yeah, the same for me here as well. I as well experimented with this diet for quite some time, and I found out that dry fruits are probably one of the like pitfalls you could call, like, of eating primarily fruits. And if you try going just like, high water content fruits especially, and then you adding some of the drier like, like dried dates or raisins or things like that, I feel it's yeah, it dehydrates you, and also, yeah, gives the teeth issues as well. These
yeah,
things, like, they're like really sticky, they stick to your teeth. And I see it also, like, if you're going fruitarian, probably the best way to do it is not having any dry fruits, or as little as possible, maybe,
yeah,
maximum once in a month or
de-
so, and then taking care of your teeth as well.
definitely. And I don't know if they're the only issue when it comes to teeth, dried fruits, but I've definitely seen it as a pattern for people and for myself. And they stick, as you're saying, they stick to the teeth, they stick in between the teeth, they stick in the little fold, the little bit under. And yeah, you need to be if you want. I believe like if you want to keep on eating dates in your diet, you can do that, but you need to be very vigilant with your teeth and get them checked on a regular basis to make sure there's no damage occurring, because it can be. And you don't the what it's not the worst thing, but there's when you damage your teeth, like that's then damaged. Do you know what I mean? Like you you have to deal with that for life, sort of thing. And there's nothing better than a natural tooth, you know. So if you've damaged your teeth, then you continue to pay for it for life, pretty much. So it's not good. So I try and
Yeah.
warn people away. Uh, yeah, to some degree, people can remineralize teeth, but you can't remineralize a totally rotten tooth, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned about the mango cleanse that you went through. Did you do any other cleanses as well on the diet?
well, I want to mention that the word cleanse is not a word that I would personally use. So
Yeah.
I when
Yeah.
I did the mango diet, I I had no intention of doing that. I was already a raw vegan for 8 or 9 years at that point, or 8 years. So I didn't think I had any cleansing or anything to do. And for me, I don't like that word personally. It doesn't work for the way I look at.
Mm.
But for other people, it might work. But that the mango thing was actually a result of being with a partner at the time. time who seemed to be interested in the idea of these kind of extremes, which I, at the time, I thought of as a bit of an extreme to do a mono diet. And I wasn't particularly bothered about doing it because I enjoy eating a variety of foods and everything. But she mentioned the idea of doing 3 days, and I said, okay, let's do 3 days. And after the 3 days, I just thought I was finding it so enjoyable. I decided to do a week, and that just kept going and kept going and kept going. So wasn't it wasn't something I consciously said I need to do this, but at the same time, I kind of wanted to show my partner at the time. I kind of wanted to show her nothing particularly special is going to happen here, right? Because I think sometimes people can be following people online and they see someone and they're like, oh, look at this person, they're doing 90 days on this, and they're doing 100 days, 120 days on that, and they're doing 6 months on this. And I was saying to her, it doesn't really impress me. You know, I'm interested in what people can do for a lifetime. That's what I'm interested in, not what someone can do for 90 days or 30 days. And there's a lot of people get caught up in these things that seem very impressive or special or whatever. But the amount of people that have done a 90-day juice fast and went back to junk food, who have done a 30-day water fast multiple times and went back to junk food is unbelievable. Like I see this so many times, right? So what impresses me is the people that have figured out a lifestyle that really works for them long term, whatever that is, and especially a raw vegan lifestyle that works long term, because that's actually quite a rarity for someone to do that. And but I wanted to show her, I kind of wanted to prove to other people, like, this won't have much of an impact on me. I've been doing a consistent raw vegan diet for 7 or 8 years, whatever I was doing, and I'm not going to start levitating or something because I'm eating mangoes. You know, I'm not going to. It's not going to change my consciousness in a greater degree. It's not going to have that much of a significant impact because, yeah, because the difference between eating a variety of fruits and some vegetables and just eating mangoes is not that big. It would be really much of a bigger difference if I came from a standard diet to eating mangoes. I get that, but the reason that I say I don't like the cleanse word, and I haven't really done a cleanse, the way you're talking about, and I never really did a lot of fasting, and I have done a little bit. Sometimes it's because other people were doing it and I was doing it along with them or whatever. But I totally believe that the body itself is its own self-cleansing and detoxifying organism, and that's something that I don't really need to interfere in or try and encourage. And if you're on a healthy raw vegan diet, I just don't see any major benefit in trying to go any further with that. If you the way I see it is doing that consistently is better than 90 days of anything or 30 days. So you know, I do get it. Like when you first start off in this diet, you still get what people call detox symptoms. You still get these kind of cleansing symptoms 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and so on. And you still get these, but that comes from the consistency of doing it and the consistency of sticking to raw, I think. And sometimes people are trying to do something quickly and they want to do something in 30 days or 90 days. And there's that healing takes time. And one great lesson I was taught was that you might have a health issue, like say a skin condition, and you want that to go away quickly. And so you go on a cleanse or a detox or a diet or fast, and it might not heal. That skin condition might not go away in that period of time, and you might get disappointed. But you
Yeah.
realize that there was something else going on in your body that you weren't aware of, that your body had to prioritize. It could have been some tumor, it could have been heart disease, whatever it was. And all of these things take time, and your body will prioritize the things that are most important to heal and deal with. So healing takes time, and it really needs a long-term approach to fully go through all the healing that you require. And I'm not saying that a water fast wouldn't do more in a shorter period, but you cannot do a water fast for 3 years, so I don't know. That's just some thoughts that I wanted to throw out there. Is it is the dog?
No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, just trying to make sure that it's quiet for you. Some people sometimes come and then the dog starts barking. Anyway, yeah, so but even in the beginning you were not doing any fast, and did you? Oh my god. So in the beginning as well. Oh my god.
No, it's
One
okay. I
second.
can hear. I can
Okay,
hear you. It's
okay,
fine.
okay. So
And
in the beginning also, did you do any fasts or cleanses, or did you had the same point of view?
okay. Um.
What was your transition
Yeah.
basically like in beginning of, because that's
Yeah.
where
Sure.
people
Sure.
have the biggest problems, right?
Yeah. Sure. Sure. So you've. I don't know. A lot of people. The raw vegan community is different, maybe right at this point, and even in the last few years than it was at the time that I was getting into it in 2011. And in 2011, there was the major influencers at the time online on YouTube and on the internet was Freely and Durian Rider and people from the 8 to 10 10 movement and Doug Graham and people like that were who we were looking towards at that time. That's where I got into this. And none of them ever said do a cleanse. None of them were ever saying like you should do a fast. In fact, they were sort of not really positive about that idea. And this, I guess, they seem to be saying that really what you need to do is get on the diet. Like you need to get this low fat diet on the fruit. And I don't really remember. I mean, I prior to ever getting into this, I remember doing like a spontaneous 1 day fast. So I remember doing that years, but even before I was vegan or anything, I remember doing a little bit of experimentation with a 1 day fast and maybe with a 2 day fast back in the day. Um, but when I started to get into this diet, that didn't seem to be the priority at the time. The priority seemed to be to try and be how do you do this diet sustainably and keep it going rather than any of the cleanses. And I never, I hear people talking about the master fast or the master cleanse. There's juice fasts. I never liked green juice, so that was something I never wanted to do a green juice fast or vegetable juice fast. And the people that I was learning from, they would always say that's not enough calories. You're just going to lose weight. You're gonna undereat. You're not gonna have enough carbohydrates. That's the kind of message at the time. So and then I started to learn more about the deeper philosophies of natural hygiene. And the philosophies of natural hygiene, especially through like Herbert Shelton and people like that, which I've not studied extensively, but enough of, and they would encourage you to believe the body is in charge of all of these things, cleansing, detoxification. Your body is always doing this, and your best thing to do is to get out of the way of that. And but to me, I got plenty of cleansing, detoxing happening just through being on a raw vegan fruit-based diet. I got all that happening. So I don't know if there's a big difference from doing that and specifically doing something like a particular detox protocol or a cleanse or a herbal thing. I never did a herbal thing. And the one thing that I would say is like I wouldn't. It's still in my mind to do a long fast someday. I'm just not very. I don't see it as very an urgent thing that I need to do, and I I don't ascribe as well to the idea that some people believe the body is full of all this junk. That's the way some people put it. Like you're not clean, you're full of all this waste, and I don't ascribe to that. I think that and maybe that's as well because I was pretty healthy leading up to going raw. I wasn't taking drugs and things like that, and all that stuff. So I'd I don't know. I guess that I was like I didn't have bad digestion. You know, I was already eating quite a lot of fruit as I was growing up and kind of being healthy. I didn't have bad digestion. I didn't have those kind of problems that some people have. I didn't have those damaging digestive systems or painful things. So I don't but yeah, I don't believe in the idea like we're full of toxins. I don't like those mindsets. Now, whether it's real or not, it doesn't work for me to believe that, so I don't, right? So that's something to people need to realize what works for them in terms of what motivates them to do it. But for me, I've never been someone that like is terrified about being full of parasites or being full of toxins or being full of and dead hard waste or whatever. And for some people, that's motivating, and it motivates them to cleanse, it motivates them to change their diet. But I don't think it's helpful for me. So I stay away from that idea, if that makes sense.
Certainly. I really prescribe to this idea that when we do a raw vegan diet, it's also so important that everyone follows what their body is telling them and not something, that a doctor or like some health coach comes and tells you if you have that intuition for your body. And I think placebo is such a big thing, and we are like conscious beings. And the whole part of this journey of a raw vegan diet is like, what is it that you truly want? And what is it that your body is truly wanting? And what is it that you have the faith in? So I like, I am so, with you on
You
this,
make,
that
yeah,
if some like, the, yeah,
you
the
make a
joy
great
that
point.
you come
No,
again.
sorry, I was just saying you make a great point there. You need to know what
Yeah,
you want. To me,
yeah,
like the raw vegan diet is for people who are set in the fact that they want the highest, they're interested in the highest levels of health and the highest levels of like feeling good and all these things. Like, but not everyone wants that, and not everyone is ready for that. And a lot of people, they still want to enjoy all the other food and they still want to live that life. And I don't mind that, but people need to realize that if you're coming into this diet, it's really because you've made that decision. Like, okay, I really want to feel my best all the time, and I want to experiment with that. So
yeah.
you're right. Like that's not for everyone. Not everyone's looking to do that.
Yeah, and the play that comes with having that authority of like, just following what you want is like very important as well. I think like with food, there should be this pleasure that you're getting instead of feeling, that there are these norms that you have to follow. So that of course you can go long term as well with the diet, and it becomes a part of your lifestyle, not just like a small gig that you play.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
You did say something there where you said, you know, something about you need to figure out what's right for you and follow your own body and not necessarily listen to what a doctor says or a health coach. And I see what you're saying there. I do think though there are mistakes people can make. There are typical mistakes a lot of people can make, and it can be very valuable to get help from others and speak to people that are more experienced because although it's good to follow your body, it's hard to interpret what that means at first. And therefore, a lot of people make certain mistakes. And at the end of the day, there is a sort of thought that, well, everyone on the wrong diet clearly isn't listening to their body. But when you get on the right diet, you can listen to your body. And it's not as simple a transition. I think my
Hmm.
opinion is that it can take a person actually quite some time, maybe many months, maybe even a year, to actually really be in alignment with interpret. And for me, it took a long time, and I still make mistakes. So I do think it's worthwhile getting advice and help if you're struggling to figure this lifestyle out. I think it is worthwhile listening to what someone else says and trying out what someone else says for a while, because it could be the case that they might have figured out something that could work for you that you don't realize yet. But um, yeah, for
Yeah.
certain, you definitely
No,
need to.
certainly agreed. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's exact same point that I'm making, that you can take advice, but like blindly following just somebody else's ideas of what you should do with your body kind of goes, completely opposite to the lifestyle that
Yes.
we're trying to follow. Because at the end of the day, like it's just a gift that raw vegan lifestyle gives us on its own, that your body is so clean and empty that you become intuitive with it automatically.
Yeah, but in
So
beginning
yeah,
you
in the
want to
beginning, yeah,
avoid some mistakes
mistakes,
probably
yeah,
as well, because
certainly.
like you wanted to also, as like said, to make it sustainable as well. And some people might do the transition too fast, and they
Yeah,
might come from much worse conditions that we are
yeah.
coming from as well.
Well, even to this,
So
day, Eustace, like I get times where if I'm hungry, I might have a feeling like, man, I'd really like to eat a big bag of nuts, and that's what I feel. But I know I'd be better off having fruit, and if I eat the fruit, then I go, okay, I feel good now. If I eat the bag of nuts, I go, I want to have some fruit even after that. Like so, I I still personally, I still have I still need to be very aware of what those signals are really saying, and I think that the human hunger signals and so on are actually quite, they're not very, I don't think they're very sophisticated. So some people like to believe, for example, that your body is able to make you crave the food that you need in that moment and the food with the particular nutrients. So if you want to eat carrots all of a sudden, that's because your body knows you need beta carotene. And if you want to have oranges, you need some vitamin C. And I don't believe it's anywhere near as sophisticated as that. I just believe that I'm hungry, let's get some food. And what's around them and what they remember to be tasty to them and what they've been grown up with and all that stuff. And I think it takes a little bit of time for your body to start saying, "Oh, I'd love some strawberries." I just think it takes time for people when they start off on this diet because I want some bread, I want some pasta, I want some like that takes for that to sort of not be so strong in people's minds, I think. So yeah, I think um as long as people have the right approach, then they can maybe identify when it's a real sort of when it's real intuition and when it's just like old cravings. And I think it's can be hard to distinguish for a while.
Definitely. Yeah. So, did you also go through some detoxes on the journey, or since you said that the health was already pretty good, so, but still, did you feel that the skin was getting better, the eye color was changing, of your mood,
I went,
like
yeah,
what changes?
I definitely went through some detoxes because although I was kind of, I felt like I was healthier than the average person, but that healthier was still bad diet that most people eat. Like, so it's like all in relative terms, right? So, and to some extent, something that I did in my early 20s was I gave up sugar. So I stopped having sugar, chocolate, ice cream, all these things I gave up. But that made me feel like I could eat almost anything else. So I could eat junk food, at night or whenever I wanted to. So I was eating meat, I was eating whole fat milk and things like that sometimes. Um, and so I was still eating all that stuff, but I was not having sugar. And then I cut out caffeine. So like, okay, I don't have caffeine, I don't have sugar, but I'm still having all these bad foods for a while, right? So when I went even cutting out sugar, I remember a detox or a cleanse. I remember that back when I was younger, just giving up sugar and coming down in weight a little bit, my skin coming out, some spots and things like that. All of a sudden, woke up in the morning and felt clear. I was always waking up in the morning feeling tired and feeling like unclear, like it took a while for my fogginess to go away. All of a sudden, I was clear in the morning just from cutting out sugar. That was way back. Uh, when I went vegetarian, I remember cutting out meat and going through a feeling of a detox that we're feeling like my body was getting rid of stuff for a week. When I went vegan and raw vegan, um, the first things I was noticing was I'd had some pains that were starting to develop in my hips and in my knees, like joint pains, just starting to develop, and they disappeared within a week. They were gone. I started to cough, and for about 6 weeks I had a cough. I remember this coughing quite a lot when I just started, on raw and vegan. So that was a kind of a detox symptom. I had a rash that came out on my arm. That was another symptom. I had spots that came out in my eyes. This
Wow.
all like, and this wasn't in the this continued to occur for quite a while. This kind of thing. I had fatigue, feeling very tired at times. I 6 months maybe into being 100% raw, maybe 6, 7, 8 months. I pain came out in my knees, and I thought, oh no, maybe I'm deficient in something, whatever. But someone had said to me that your joints can store toxins, and sometimes when you're detoxing, these toxins will release and it'll be painful. And I don't know if that's true exactly, but I remember having pains in my knees, and then a couple of days later, it went away. Sometimes on a detox, your desire to eat goes away. You don't want to eat. You don't even want to eat fruit. You just don't, for some reason, for the day or whatever. Some people call that a body initiated fast, where the body just says, I don't want to eat, and you just
Mm.
and you try and eat things because your mind still kind of wants to eat. You try and eat things that doesn't taste good, and you're like, oh, don't want to eat anything.
Yeah.
So that happened. Um, Other detox symptoms. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, I remember having an interest. So I had a really weird detox or reaction when I gave up salt. So that took me a while to try and give up salt. And this is kind of a strange story. So, and I've never heard anyone say this. So I gave up salt, and I basically had like cold and flu symptoms. So I took time off work actually when I gave up salt. So I was um, kind of in bed feeling like I had a cold, like a heavy cold, or or maybe a little bit of a flu. And then I remember for a day, I don't know why this happened, but I've never really taken drugs that much, but it felt like my brain just went into a high, like a natural high. I don't know why, but it went into this extreme natural high that was that made me imagine what it would be like if I took like some kind of artificial drug, and I was feeling so incredibly like happy, but it wasn't real. And then like after a couple of hours, it got boring. I was like, this is kind of boring. But that was a very like symptom. I don't know why that happened, but but that happened, and yeah, with skin, I just noticed that as well when I was experimenting with going raw and going off raw, and I would just look at my skin on the back of my hand, and I would see that when I ate raw, I felt like my skin was kind of nice and kind of shining a little bit, and then when I went back to cook food, it changed. Like it's changed almost straight away, and that was a big for me. Was there was a point 5 years into being raw where I went back to cook foods for about 6 months, vegan foods and vegan junk foods and stuff, but eventually went back to vegan whole foods and then went back to raw. But in that period of time, I remember the difference to me was so huge, and it was very apparent to me, and I just it made it really even more clear to me. Like I can't believe people eat this way. It became clear to me like every single meal was uncomfortable in my mouth, uncomfortable in my stomach, sitting in my stomach for hours and hours, not satisfying, um, digesting not as well. And I just thought, this is not worth it at all. I don't know why. It was clear to me, like I need to get back to raw, but it was very difficult for me to do that because you have these strong cravings for these foods. And I remember starting to get joint pains, and I never really had joint, but I remember just being aware that something's changing in my joints. I just thought there's something happening, an unusual thing that I've noticed with raw that, or when I went back to cook, and I don't understand what this is. I can't even explain what it is exactly, but if I accidentally hit my hand against like a doorknob or against something. When I was eating cooked food, it really, really hurt. I just like it really, really hurt. And then I went back to raw, and I was just banging my hand on things, and it didn't hurt. And I said, I don't know what that is, but something different is happening there, whether it's in the bones or whether it's
Maybe some hydration, for example. I think it could be hydration that
yeah,
we get more dehydrated on cooked foods now, and then and then now we're more fluid, like things are more flexible, so
yeah,
we have more leverage, to go around.
yeah.
I also noticed that because we are actually walking barefoot for like more than 2 years now,
Oh, nice.
and then like we step sometimes on something or hit our toes, and sometimes I there's some blood coming from, like, I mean, I hit something so hard, blood starts coming out, I don't even notice it, and then there's like someone says, "Oh, there's blood coming." I was like, "Oh my God, really?"
And the healing is so fast also. Like it
Yeah,
heals
yeah,
so fast.
ridiculous. Yeah, so the healing is way faster for cuts and bruises and things like that, for sure. Sunburn, if you ever have sunburn, it doesn't hurt as much. It heals a lot faster. Like, yeah, so many, so many things. And I think a lot of the amazing, miraculous things though that happen are things we don't even notice to some degree. Like my, I remember having like what felt to me like an irregular heartbeat. Now I never really got that checked or got it looked into. But if I was working out or if I was feeling my heartbeat, it would be like irregular, the rhythm of it. And when I checked that back after I'd been raw vegan for a while, because I just remembered my heartbeat was just totally steady. These things, you don't really notice these things. You're not really aware of these things all the time, but something's healing there, something's changing. So there's all sorts of things we're not aware of that are happening, and then there's the things that aren't necessarily symptoms, but just like feeling like a renewed sense of energy, a childlike sense of energy, feeling this connection to nature thing that some people sometimes talk about, this sense of somehow your eyesight almost changing a little bit and the colors of nature being more vivid and having this great appeal to want to be in nature more, and all of these things sort of opening up, your mind being a lot clearer, sharper. If you sit in meditation, it feels a lot sort of a lot clearer, a lot more focused in some way. And this emotional thing can happen as well, where people have these emotional awakenings. And I, a lot of people like have had this experience as well of like, and I don't have it so much anymore, sadly. But the first year or so of eating a lot of fruit, I would have moments of waves of gratitude, like waves of gratitude just hitting me, and after a meal of fruit or whatever, and it would just be this here unbelievable feeling of gratitude for the world and nature and everything, and just like out of the blue, like this is amazing. It doesn't have to do so much anymore. I wish it kept happening, but in the first, I don't know. Have you ever had that feeling?
Yeah, even today I was like feeling very normal, and then I had a juice, pineapple juice, and I had it, and I came out of the door, and I was like, oh my God, I was just like so free, and like just like started dancing and felt so
Oh,
high.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
That happens like definitely all the things that you're talking about, the mental clarity and just like this ease in meditation. I think those are the things that also that is probably the factor that keeps you most in the diet, because I want to keep feeling good. Like I don't like the lows at all, and I want to do everything in my life that can keep me in a higher state of calmer
Yeah, I
state of
can't
being.
believe. Yeah,
So
Kartika, like I know people that have went on raw vegan diets for a while and then went back to other diets, and I just don't understand it. I personally don't understand that. For me, none of
yeah.
the and for me, like I used to be very interested in being a like, people will maybe say, "Oh, I can't do your diet. I like food too much. I love food and I love restaurants and all that." I used to buy books of chefs. I was really into cooking and I was really into for a while I thought I might think about becoming a chef. I got really into it. I would start to home prepare a lot of my own food. I really respected, and I still do respect, sort of the artistry, the creativity in cooking, and the dedication that chefs have. I like that, and I would read restaurant reviews in my city, and I would go to these restaurants, and the restaurant reviews, they talk about this amazing food, and and I would go on my own sometimes to these restaurants, these expensive restaurants, and buy the food. And then I would try recipes. And, I got to this point where I realized if I spent 3 hours making a pizza from scratch, it still just tastes like a pizza. Like it's just a pizza. Like it doesn't do anything special. It's just, and didn't feel that much different eventually after a while, you know, none of that food was as exciting anymore. And I thought there's something else like this, you know. And I mean, I used to go and try and get the best bit of steak and fry it in butter and have like garlic in it and blah blah, and then felt terrible for like an hour or two after, like just sitting on the couch, like okay, okay, but that I just like all of these things I've experimented with. I've had all the foods really, I'm not missing out. I've tried all that stuff. I I appreciate the flavors are strong, but even the raw vegan gourmet food, I'm not that bothered about. And I'll have these things once in a while with people and things, but um, I just think it's a real joy when you can be so satisfied with very simple food. And I don't really need anything special either. Like there's a lot of people that they start off in this diet and they start to post in forums things like like they live where I live. And they say, I live in the UK. Where do you get fruit? I can't find any good fruit. And I'm like, well, go to the supermarket, go to the
Get
same
some
place
fruits.
everyone else gets their food, and there is lots of fruit there. But it's like that's not good enough for them in some way. They want something special or different, or they think that we've all figured out, oh, there's a special resource for raw vegans only where there's amazing fruit you can get. Actually, like, no, that doesn't exist. Like everyone's just going to the supermarket. If you're in a place that has a farmer's market or fruit stand, great. But it's fruit is fruit at the end of the day. And um, I've not been everywhere, but I've been to like Thailand. I've been to South America, and it's nice to have places that have different fruits and stuff. And it's good to try some of the tropical fruits. But I'm just as satisfied being here having grapes or having a pineapple or having um, really simple stuff that everyone has access to. Really, right now the apples aren't very good, but when the apples are good, like it's all about kind of knowing what's good and when it's ripe and everything else. So
Yeah. I think being simple has become difficult for people now. And people who can embrace simplicity and find like the beauty of it, I think that's the highest beauty. Like we know this guy who's living on bread, and I think it's this shift in mindset that you suddenly get, that oh my god, if you're eating simple foods, which is just like, okay, you take a papaya, cut it and eat it, how much time do you save? Okay. And like,
yeah,
you eat for a certain time and you get pleasure out of one papaya, which is also good for you. You keep feeling good afterwards as well. And you can do other things as well. So like treating food as nutrition, and just like this shift in your inside of like, I think it's like you make your life a little bit higher, because somebody who is not eating raw vegan food cannot understand. They'll be like, oh, you're missing all the fun of life. And I'm like, man, life's never been more fun.
yeah, yeah.
and, and
Well,
I'm looking at that. Yeah,
you're
go
making a
ahead.
great point there, and something that happens is with food becomes the motivation, right? In a sense, like people become so rewarded by these foods that are highly stimulating. So the way that it works, as far as I can see, is the reason that people, for example, why are people so motivated to eat these junk foods and the processed foods instead of an apple or a banana? And it's not really the flavor. We think it's because the flavor is more intense. That is a part of it, but actually, probably most importantly, is that it triggers the release of like a higher level of dopamine. So
Yeah.
whether it's whether it's some kind of chemical that's in the food that triggers that, or whether it's just the fact that it's very high calorically and very intense and but it triggers a high level of dopamine. It makes the body, it tells, and whatever triggers the highest level of dopamine, our mind basically prioritizes that as being like that's the most important thing, because that's how we essentially determine what's important to go towards. So we become motivated to put our time, attention, and energy into that thing, right? That's the way that I kind of see it. So when we
Mm.
have these foods in our life, they can become such a high priority that people, will, as we commonly see, destroy their health because of these foods, and they will not give them up. And I don't believe that people don't realize these foods are the reason. They must realize this diet is the reason I'm overweight. This diet is the reason, they must realize that. But their system has been so hijacked in terms of the dopamine reward thing by these foods that it makes them not see all the problems with it and all the issues. And that system would have worked perfectly in the correct environment. If we are living in the correct environment with only healthy foods available to us, then that's fine. And we'll go towards the foods that are the most nutritious and the most healthiest, and that's how we'll be triggered to do that. But when you're in a system surrounded by junk food and processed food that have been scientifically created to trigger the dopamine system, then people are inevitably going to make bad choices. But what it also leads to is there's so many things you can do in life, like you're saying, like so many fun activities, but people limit that because they just want the food. And I remember spending time with friends, even like vegan friends in Thailand, and it would come to the evening, and sometimes I would think, what are we going to do this evening? Are we going to go to the kirtan? Are we going to dance? Are we going to go to the beach? Or They just wanted to go to the restaurant. They just always wanted to go to the restaurant. So when we give up these foods, people always think we're giving up this huge part of our life.
Mm.
We'll have this big hole in our life. And I was speaking to a guy recently, and he painted it really clearly for me, where he said when he went vegan, he had more energy and he started getting into more activities, and all these new things came into his life. And I think that's what happens. We clear the way for new experiences to come into our life, because you know you have that thing like, I want to do something, and you used to eat food, you used to go to the restaurant, you used to, but now it's like, I feel like doing something, or I feel like I want something, something's missing, and you go for a walk, you go for a explore somewhere, you go for a drive, you do something new you've never done before, like you phone up a friend, you do something different, because you not have this big factor of food being the overwhelming choice for what you do when
Mm.
you're bored, or whatever. So,
Yeah, yeah,
do you think
yeah.
that makes sense? Does that make sense? Kind of?
Well, definitely,
Yeah, of course, of course.
definitely. I think that the
Especially with like
addiction.
salts and then fried foods and like oils and like dense foods, even like in raw food community, right? Like you said, like bag of nuts, right? It's like,
Yeah,
why do
bag of
we
nuts.
want it so much?
For me, like tomatoes
It's
as well.
like,
Like I find
yeah.
tomatoes way more like triggering than some other foods.
Seducing.
Yeah, and some raw vegans really like tahini and things like that, and they go towards
Yeah.
it. So that's why I love the mono fruit diet, because you're eating like really simply, and that, like, I remember being, I got a book written and stuff when I did that mango. Like, I just was finding that you're looking for that dopamine or whatever it is, that reward. And if you can't get that from food because you're eating so simply, you tend to try and find that through doing something, right? So that's why you end up doing activities or doing your work, or working on your business or whatever it is. You start to actually be more focused on
Yeah.
that, because
Reading book
yeah,
becomes fun.
yeah,
Did you say you started writing a book when you were on the mango
yeah. Well,
diet?
that
Millet.
thing, the raw food. I made put a book together called the Raw Food
Yeah.
Lifestyle One. The idea was 101. I'd basically accumulated over the years. I'd written emails and blogs and different things like that, and
Yeah.
different.
Essays. Yeah.
I brought it together into that, and
Yeah.
I did that during the mango fast,
Wow.
and I released that during that, and
Awesome.
but that time as well was COVID. that was 2020,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
and
Yeah. So you can't
the
say.
U the UK Fruit Fest was really taking a hit at that time because
Yeah.
we were always generous with people, and we would say, if you want to refund, you can refund. We'd give them quite a long time to cancel and refund, and a lot of people had signed up prior to February, and then all of a sudden the COVID thing happened, and people started to cancel. So we had a lot of people cancel, and I didn't really know what to do, and I found it was getting harder to get people to sign up to come. So so I thought I'll write this book. I don't know. I need to have
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to do something else. I need to do
Yes.
something else, and I put that book together. But yeah, but it's an example where for like other people this isn't the same with. There are many people that eat a junk food diet or whatever, but they're very productive and focused on the work still. But for me,
Yeah.
definitely find food can be a distraction. So I
Yeah.
like to simplify my the food in my life. Um, and I think I might be, I don't know about you guys, but like I've always like part of the reason I never really drank alcohol and took drugs is because I kind of felt like I already saw behavior in me in my teenage years. Like I would binge on things like sweets and things like I saw that behavior that I had.
Uh-huh. Mm.
So if that applied to alcohol or drugs or something, that would be a lot worse. So partly
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, I was always staying away from these things because I thought I might have a bit of a bad tendency for binge
Wow.
and an addiction.
You, yeah. You're very aware child. In India, we don't have a culture of alcohol so much. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
For me,
I'm.
college years was some part of alcohol, but until like I was 23, because I'm now 29. Until I was 23, I never really had alcohol, for example, as well. But then I was smoking a little bit also, and then like that was much stronger thing for me as well.
Mm.
So it's yeah, like you're lucky if you haven't really used the stronger things, because like I see also that food is kind of like the primary addiction, that like and then people jump to other addictions, because like since we were children, basically we will fed on these like things that stimulate us so much, and then we cannot and then we don't get enough stimulation from these things anymore, and then we have to go to other things as well.
Yeah,
So I see that also that like a lot of addictions just fall down as you get healthier, cleaner, and like working with the food as the ways to reduce the addictions in
yeah,
people.
yeah.
I think that's also another aspect that people are not overlooking completely as well, because like
And you,
if you can find the primary addiction of like not overeating, not having all this junk food, and then you can actually work with other higher addictions as well like
yeah,
that.
yeah, and I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, and this is kind of smart what you guys are doing. The opposite of addiction is connection. I've heard some people
Uh-huh.
the opposite of addiction. So this guy was saying that they would do these studies on mice and or
Yeah.
wherever they put them in an enclosure, and then they get them addicted to cocaine, and they would start to
Yeah.
drink cocaine over the sugar water, and they would end up
Yeah.
losing so much weight and dying. And they said, "Wow, this is really it's crazy how addictive this is." But what they found was when they put the
Yeah.
mice in an enclosure with like other mice, and they had lots of activities and places to run around, and it was a natural environment for them, they didn't go to the cocaine anymore, which is
Yeah.
really interesting. And when you're in community, and I think you're saying you're kind of living in community and have that human connection more often, I think that's another thing that stops people from being so triggered and stimulated to go and have these bad foods, because and any addictive behavior, because part of what we're craving when people are craving
Love.
is yeah
Yeah.
is uh,
Connection.
they're lacking, missing something, and they end up using food for it,
Yeah.
and they end up a lot of people end up living alone. That's part of the reason why I think the festival is important, and any kind of online, even online gatherings are important. And we do a Friday night gathering every Friday for free, where people join, and we have speakers and things. And the idea of
Wow.
that, trying to have some idea of like people feeling like there's other people out there that are, doing this kind of diet and having a little bit of connection. And with the festival, what I've found is that, I mean, I really believe in the diet, right? But a lot of people, what they get out of the festival is the connection aspect of it. It's the community, because so many people aren't really living in community anymore. They're living individual lives or with a small family. And many people live alone. Like a lot of people live alone in the UK, and they can go a whole weekend be on their own,
Yeah.
be at work during the week and then just be on their own at the weekend. And that's happened to me a bunch of times where I end up being alone for days. And it's, the thing you were talking about earlier about the intuition or knowing your body. Like I do think that sometimes we don't know ourselves as well, and sometimes you can be sitting thinking there's something I'm not feeling good, and it's just that you've not spoken to anyone in a while. You've not been around friends. You've not been around other, like that can be a thing as well. The detriments people's and how they feel. And
Yeah.
but the funny thing is, a lot of people will avoid that. It's kind of like there's a lot of things that are good for people that they avoid: exercise, good diet, but also socializing. Some people will avoid social experiences because they're scared or worried, or it's a risk. They might get embarrassed. There's a lot of things, but we really need it for it to remain kind of healthy.
Same.
We don't even realize. I mean, even just having someone that is a reflection on you. Like I've got these puffy eyes recently, and I don't know exactly why they're happening, right? But maybe I'm eating something right now that I'm reacting with. I don't know exactly, or it might be the way I'm sleeping, or it might be a chemical in in my clothing that I'm using to clean the clothes. I don't know what it is yet, but it happened in the last few days. I went to see my parents, and my dad said, "Your eyes are puffy." Like other people see things in you, and they sort of
Yeah.
they see the changes in you, and they point things out to you. And like a lot of people end up very overweight because they're living alone, and there's no one there in their life to say, "You're kind of putting on a bit of weight here. You might want to watch." Like there's no one
Like,
giving them a reflection of reality. Like your skin's not looking as good as it used to. Like these small things that could have a
Yeah.
trigger for you to think, something I need to maybe modify my behavior. So I think it's really important to be around people, and the difficulty with a lot of people is we have a kind of fantasy of what we believe we are, and other people can
Yeah.
kind of put down to reality and make realize,
Oh,
we're just another human being as well or whatever. And but I think that's good for us.
yeah.
But tell me,
Yeah, there was a study done.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I
No,
want
go
to know
ahead.
a
You
bit.
asked
I want to
something.
know a bit about the community you live in. So if you let us know about that, that would be good. But yeah, go on with the study you were talking.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. There was I think this is the longest study done in Harvard where they saw um, what makes people live the longest, and they found out it was deep relationships. So food has a major
Uh,
role to play, but it's the connection, that that is why we are here on this planet, to probably
yeah.
like feel that unity with others, and like the nature, and even within yourself, being able to connect to your higher self. And that cannot happen unless you have that community around. We're social beings,
Yeah.
and I think it's part of like the evolution of human consciousness, to be able to feel that oneness with others, and just like, yeah, be able to reflect yourself
It's yeah.
by through
It's
others, because they become a mirror as well.
it's
Yeah.
the big pillar in the whole health movement and in the raw vegan movement that needs to be explored to a great
Yeah.
degree, which is exactly what we're talking about: deep relationships, community, togetherness. These things, even well, the blue zones, they talk about even like having religious life, having life purpose, all of these things. Um, and there was a guy one time who said, if you have an elderly relative that you look after, you're more likely to live longer. And, and
Yeah.
he claimed that, I mean, he claimed that he even like brought people's cholesterol down and stuff like that. I don't know how true that is, but when you have someone to
Mhm.
look after, now here's the funny thing: in our country, in a lot of the European countries now, in the US, people don't look after their elderly relatives anymore. They go to a care home. Now, sometimes that's required because they're very sick, they need professional help, but sometimes they just don't want to be around their mother or father anymore, or they don't want to be around. And it used to be the case that that was your duty. Your duty was to look after your parents, or to look after your family. People would have their uncles staying with them, just random. Like my dad grew up in a house with uncles, aunties, all sorts of people living in that house. And we don't have that so much anymore. And people don't need it. Like people don't need to do that, so they end up living alone, independent. Everyone's independent, but they're not really independent. And it's like a lot of people wouldn't want to have to look after an older relative. I understand that. But it's these things, once again, it's actually good for you. It's good for your heart, your spirit. It's good for you as a human being to be doing these things. I believe the same thing. Like I think a good thing for a lot of even prisoners and different people is to have a dog. Now, I'm a vegan and I don't tend to like animals being used for anything really. I kind of think we should leave them alone. But it is the case that when people have a dog, there's a reason that people like having dogs and cats around. People, they want to care for something. It gives them meaning in life. It gives them some purpose. They end up looking after themselves better if they have, something else to look after, because they have to look after them. They're thinking like they're important because at least they're looking after this other thing.
Yeah.
And this is a whole thing that needs to be explored in a bigger way that isn't talked about so much in the raw vegan movement. Because I've been to a lot of events, tons of events, and I really think it's important to learn about the diet. I think it's really important that there's information about that, and fitness, and that's important, and sleep, and huge pillars of health. But what you're kind of saying there is probably right. That the actual biggest thing, or one of the biggest things, is this piece of like relationships and connection and community, and that needs to become a pillar, and people need to find ways to make that a part of their life as a priority, because we don't have that naturally occurring anymore. It's not like back in the day, it would have been, we might have lived in a village together and I would have said, hey guys, I've got some I need to cut some wood this month. I need to get my wood cut, or I need to pick my peaches, or I need to where my dad comes from in the north of Scotland, the Isle of Lewis, people would cut peat. So there'd be moors, and people and the families would have different areas that would go and cut into the ground peat, like a very cheap version of coal, like not very good, but it's just like very compacted earth. So they would cut into the ground, and they would stack these slabs of peat, and then they would dry in the summer, and they would take them back to their home, and they would burn these for fire throughout the year.
Yeah.
So they didn't have any trees on the island, so they cut peat. So all the families would help each other out. So they would go like, we do this family, then we do this one, then we do this one, then we do this one, and everyone would be helping.
Wow.
And if someone didn't help, they would still go and help them as well. So there was always that kind of spirit in smaller communities, and there wasn't TV, there wasn't radio. How did people entertain themselves? They got together, they told stories, they wanted to be around each other. There wasn't any other alternative. So, and if they wanted to eat, people came together to eat as well. So there was so much of that togetherness all the time, naturally, as part of the culture. That's basically disappeared now, and people have that togetherness in a work environment, and a lot of people don't have that outside of their work, and their work doesn't really care for them. Like if they don't do a good job, they're out. Now that's your family.
It's not really true connection.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is literally, there could have been a person that was selfish and that didn't really help anyone else out, but everyone would still help him out. Like that's what it was like in these villages, because they knew that person's going to struggle if we don't help them, So they knew to do these things, and they checked up on people, and people made sure that everyone was okay. And we don't really have that so much now, and I think that something I realized is I need to consciously make an effort to create community, friendship, connection in my life consciously all the time. And there's no there's no one that has too much of that. I don't think there's anyone that has too much. Is people say you can't get too much of a good thing or like everything in moderation, but that no one's getting enough of that really, except
Mm.
maybe people living in these
Actually,
small communities and small tribes and all that. But that's rare now. But you,
actually in India,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm
I
saying you
missed
guys
you.
maybe
What were
have
you
a
saying?
version of that with the community.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, in the place, the village that we live in, also it's the same system still following. It's maybe 700 people in that
Oh,
village.
great.
So yeah, and they, because we're really off the grid, and what, like, we're actually living away from them, the local village, but we're still in touch with them, and they also are like, they come to our place, and then we work together and everything. But these people, they have the same system going on where everyone is like everyone's relative, and then they have farm work in which they help each other. Well, there's a lot of, like, cons of also, like, being so tightly, they're like living too tightly, like in small spaces and houses. But like this communal factor is there, so maybe some, and even in like India, there are joint families that are still living,
Yeah.
even in the cities. And like, ancestors, your grandfather and mother would be living with you, and your mother and father is there. And then I would say, of course, the better way definitely is the way that we are living. For example, like the community that we have, where we have our own spaces, and also people can, come in and go out, and then if people want to live together, they can, like, there is this freedom. But like the factor that, the community is there around you and you are connected with that community gives such a strong
Yeah.
strong force and power in your life. For us to like just come and settle here by ourselves doing everything would have been very, very tough. Just like not only the physical part but the mental part, just to know that you have your own people, was such a powerful thing when we, started our project. And for me, I was actually living in Vietnam, and I was living by myself. But when these guys told me that there's a community, growing community, like then it was only 3-4 people. I was like, yeah, man, this is what I want. And I left Vietnam and came back to India because I had like people in that community who were really good friends, and I wanted to live with them. So, and I, like, no amount of money that I was earning in Vietnam was valuable enough, because I knew for my health, for my well-being, I need a set of people, whom I
Yeah.
can, yeah, put my head down when I need them, or like, they can, let's say, for all sorts of things, just like to just enjoy life together. So and then even for example, even now we have like 3 people with us, because we're just having a small retreat kind of a thing from the
Cool.
community. Yeah, and so we keep having like, these parties and events, and it's very organic as well. Sometimes we don't organize it, and then everyone comes together. And I think this is like, even people when they write to us, they're looking for this, they're looking for community. So right now we have one guest who came from Bangalore, and we didn't know him, but he was seeking for a community. So we gave him a resort stay, and then he was like, no, 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 this is not what I want. I want to, like, I'm okay living in a tent, but just like I need people right now. So
Yeah.
like we do need our spaces, but definitely, like, like I cannot like say it enough how important it is to have a community. And since you were mentioning our okay, so since you were mentioning about, like, that you have these Friday meetups, probably our audience, you can tell them where is it that they can find the link for this if they want to join and be a part.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of links there. There's fruitfest.co.uk/Fruity Fridays. They're called Fruity Fridays. You could also go on our
Yeah.
Facebook forum, UK Fruit Fest Community. And the other link to actually get emails for it is that I had a domain called Raw Vegan Course. So that's Raw Vegan Course/Fruity Fridays. That's another way of finding it. But yeah, any of those they will be able to find it. Maybe the Facebook community group if they're part of Facebook, and otherwise
Yeah.
fest.co.uk, just join the newsletter and you'll get emails about it.
Awesome, awesome. I'll link all these with the video so that everyone can, reach out to you whenever they if they feel like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
very cool.
yeah, there's actually, since we're doing it on a laptop in an off-the-grid setup, we have a shortage of battery on the laptop.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe we could like conclude in a little bit. How much battery is left?
47 minutes is good,
Okay.
but we need to convert it also.
Yeah, so you can dim it down.
Yes.
So, yes, Eustace, you have, maybe you could do another one also if you are game for it, because we could, I feel like it's an uncompleted conversation that we have, and there's so much more that
Yes.
can come out of,
Yeah, and I
this
would like
thing.
to
So,
interview. Like to interview you both as well. So we'll do that as well.
awesome,
Stay in touch.
awesome, awesome. So we will fix both of that up. I think I would love to like hear more from you as well, so that we can
Sure.
get, it's beautiful how detailed you can, yeah, you're going like
Yeah,
so slow with like so much detail. It's
it's
really
amazing. Yeah,
beautiful.
like I really like that we go into depth of things, rather than like sometimes like just like 1 minute video or 2 minute video or something, and then
Asking question, church,
yeah,
yeah,
so like we like it organically basically, and
yeah,
for us it was also very fruitful, and like we read for us, like we see that the raw vegan community, it's also like it's a community, right? So like
yeah,
we need other people, and we need to like learn about other people experiences as well. And for me it was very big thing that like I never had people around me, so I was started by myself, but then I created like
a lot of people. He created his
I
community of
created
raw
my
vegan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I brought these things to other people, and then the other people, oh man, it's awesome, and then they're also trying things out and experimenting. But
Exactly.
like since I already had so much more experience, like I can help people out like this, like in very fruitful way, you could say. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Pun
Absolutely.
intended.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, awesome. So, any last message that you would like to give for this, video before we
Yeah.
stop the recording?
Well, I mean, if it's people looking for information on diet, then I really do think that the fruit diet is the way to go, and it essentially it comes down to being able to transition to that and to be able to eat enough calories to maintain your weight and stay healthy and and eat mono meals, and there's very simple things like that. And there's some good books on that. There's some good resources, and I think people should take some time to learn that and maybe work with people and work with a coach or something if that works for them. I think it's worthwhile to take time to do that as a part of this journey. But I think something that will really help motivate people and get people on the right track will be uh, continuing to get educated and learn and listen to people like yourselves, but also to try and get around people. If that is a local potluck group, if it is a festival, if it is a retreat, if it is even a raw vegan restaurant or something that you go to often, like get around people that are doing this, get around people that are excited about this and on the same path. That will change things in you on a deep level. That will change your motivation. That will change the way you look at things. When you meet someone that used to be 200 pounds overweight or whatever it is, or they used to be very sick, or they used to have no fitness, and they tell you about how they changed their life with this kind of diet, that is very impactful for people. That's more inspiring than almost anything else. It's just to meet someone that tells you about these experiences. So getting around other people that are doing this, you'll also find that you'll meet some of the best people you've ever met in your life when you go down this path. So I really encourage you to get your education, get around people, and change the vision of who you can be. You know, start to do a process of imagining, because I believe everyone's got an inner sort of vision idea of who they are, who they want to be, and that kind of sets their direction in life. Start to become conscious about that and say, who do I want to be when I'm 80, 90, 100 years old? What do I want my 100th birthday to look like? Where am I? Where am I living? What's my environment? How many people are with me? What kind of people are there? What are my relationships? What have I achieved, accomplished? Where's my health? Am I fit? Am I able to have activities? Am I running, skiing? What am I doing? And start to really change that inner idea of yourself, and that will, I believe, start to make you realize what's so important about putting in the work now that leads to the rest of your life continuing to grow and develop, and that your impact on others can be so profound. Right now we're
Yeah.
all relatively young and people kind of listen to us a little bit, but when you're 100 years old and you're still fit and you're eating fruit and you're still running about and doing what you like, people are going to be really listening to you then. So like there's a whole there's a long a lot of value to get out of this, but think about long term, not short term. What works long term is the way to go, and that can be patient, and people need to like be patient, but that's the best way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Beautiful.
beautiful message. That's
Yes,
a
yes.
really like deep one. I think we are creating our reality and the stories we tell ourselves, the visions that we have of Mother Earth, of other people and of ourselves. We are like giving our little input of what space we're going to be in the
Mm.
future, and it's so important to become aware
Yep.
of it and like change it to as beautiful as far ahead you can think of. And like of course the power
Yes.
of community is like we already discussed about it, how important it is even for these visions to like manifest in you, for you to be able to dream so big. You need like your friends and family to be able to
Yes.
believe in your
Exactly.
bigger visions. Yeah.